It's Monday. It's not 3 p.m. Pacific time. Sometimes we may have to make adjustments to the schedule in terms of our start time for a live show. V for Valkyries coming to you live today at 12 Pacific. It happens. If you follow us on social media, you would know about it. Sophia Jones, color analyst for your Golden State Valkyries. My name is Cyrus Sotzes. We got a lot to talk about because the Valkyries are in the playoffs, and we're going to cover that clearly. There's also a massive, huge update pertaining to the Kuminga Golden State Warriors negotiations. So that's what's on the docket. Sophia, you good? You ready?
Yep, some huge news that we just received about 19 minutes ago about the Valkyries that I'm excited to announce.
Oh, that's a hell of a tease. This is the Golden Days.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. Leave me alone this summer.
Let's go. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up.
Great. You here fighting. Welcome to the Golden Days V for Valkyries edition. You can follow Sophia Jones on Twitter at SophiaJones_2. You can follow me, Cyrus Sotzes, on Threads and Instagram at DogWild, on Twitter at Surf Journalist. The program available on both platforms at Golden Days Pod. Sophia, it is great to see you. How are you doing? And enlighten myself and the audience, please, with this breaking news. Go for it.
I'm doing great. And breaking news was that right at 12 p.m. Pacific time, the WNBA announced that their 2025 Kia WNBA Most Improved Player of the Year is Golden State Valkyries' own Veronica Burton, which huge accomplishment. Veronica is the first player in WNBA history to boost her numbers by at least 5 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. She was a member of the Connecticut Sun last year, and she essentially went from being or playing behind a lot of really great and talented players on the Sun to now being the head of the snake here at the Golden State Valkyries and just racking up a ton of accolades. So extremely well-deserved. She was the first Valkyrie to show up for training camp, and that hard work definitely paid off.
Beautiful. Congratulations, Veronica Burton, Most Improved Player. And this leads to me personally calling out the Associated Press for a moment here, because a week ago, the AP released all these awards. They awarded Natalie Nicase Coach of the Year. I thought Veronica Burton already was Most Improved. I thought this was a foregone conclusion. So what I'm enlightened to, based off your reporting this afternoon, is that the AP awards are not the official WNBA awards. And I got thrown off a little bit because with the NBA, you don't normally see the AP come out with their own awards. I got the Associated Press. You're supposed to be the bastion of journalistic integrity. You misled me a little bit there, and I think you did that by design. So I'm going to call you out just for a second. I'm being a little facetious as well, saying this is not a big deal, obviously, in the grand scheme of things. But Veronica Burton, now your official Most Improved Player. Do you have any idea when they're going to announce the other awards? Because to me, undoubtedly, Natalie Nicase is going to win Coach of the Year. I think that's a foregone conclusion. But when are we going to be formally enlightened about all this information? Do you know?
The awards are going to be pretty spaced out.
Okay.
So, and I actually believe Coach of the Year will be announced Wednesday, which would be extremely poetic because that is when the game 2 of the Golden State Valkyries game at home is. So hoping that Coach Nicase will be able to receive a lot of recognition in front of the home crowd. But some of the other awards like Sixth Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, First Teams, that's all going to be spaced out over this playoff duration. And I think 1 or 2 weeks. But this is the first major award that went out.
And so they're following the NBA pattern. The NBA does this as well. They oftentimes announce the award winners like with each week of the postseason. Normally inside the NBA handles those honors. We have no idea how that's going to work this year. Side note, tomorrow, another doubleheader Tuesday. Mark Haynes joins the show every Tuesday night. The I-80 crossover is now up and running. And boy, are we going to have some things to discuss with Mark Haynes pertaining to Jonathan Kaminga, because this blockbuster story, at least from our perspective as a Warriors program, released today on ESPN by Shams Charania and Anthony Slater. Side note, I'm going to try to get Slater on the show soon because I had an epiphany that Slater is no longer the competition. He's with ESPN now. And so I'm going to reach right out to him this week to try to get him on the show. Anyways, they had some breaking news, but and we're going to cover that in a little bit. But I want to focus the start of the show, keep the focus on the Valkyries because they're literally in the playoffs right now. And as an expansion team, it's never been done in the short, brief, yet illustrious history of the WNBA. The Valkyries are the first. But Sophia, since the last time you were here, I feel like this has just not been a good week for the Valkyries. In fact, that Veronica Burton news was the first good news I feel like we've heard pertaining to the Valkyries. And I know maybe I'm being a little on the negative side saying this because I'm sure there's other positives that have been in existence. But what I've seen this last week, and let's go back to the second to last regular season game, if you don't mind. Let's start there because the Valkyries had a game in Seattle against the Storm, and this was a huge game for both teams. The Valkyries are fighting for playoff positioning. The Storm were fighting for their playoff lives. If the Storm had lost, would they have been eliminated, or were they then having to rely on other teams? Do you remember going back a week where the Storm were?
They would have been hoping that the Los Angeles Sparks lost their last game, which they did end up doing, so they would have clinched it anyway. But that could have been changed, with Los Angeles playing with those playoff hopes on the line for that very last competition.
So again, and the stakes were, and the ending of that game was very disappointing. Obviously, you're the color analyst. You're literally covering the action in real time. Break down the ending of that game. What went wrong for the Valkyries? Because I feel like that game was very costly. And it resulted in the Valkyries playing the Minnesota Lynx in the first round instead of maybe an easier opponent. Maybe you can clarify that in a moment, but in a brief bit here. But what happened at the end of that game? Because it sucked. There's no way to spin it. Your breakdown, please.
Golden State had okay late game execution on the offensive end of the floor. I would say they had some really clutch buckets. They were up 1 with about 20 seconds left, and then Erica Wheeler hit a really clutch pull-up midi jumper. I believe it was also off of an offensive rebound, but Seattle, again, they were playing with that desperation at home. And then on the other end of the court, Janelle Salon couldn't convert on some of the go-ahead buckets that would have ended up being game-winning. But Seattle was just playing truly with a lot of desperation because they won that game. They clinched their playoffs.
Yeah.
They were in front of their home crowd that was also aware of the situation. And I also do think that there was some orchestrating by the Minnesota Lynx as well, because that same day, Nafisa Collier sat their game against the Indiana Fever, and Indiana Fever ended up winning. None of their starters essentially played over 25, 30 minutes. But because Indiana then won that game, it bumped the Valkyries down again. And then they brought Nafisa back. They did not rest anyone for that final matchup. That was Lynx and Valkyries for the final game of the regular season. Minnesota ended up winning that game. But because they won, Valkyries dropped to 8th place. Minnesota is 4-0 against the Valkyries. They are 2-2 against the Seattle Storm. So I can imagine there was a little bit of orchestrating in that situation so that they would get matched up against the Valkyries for that first round.
Oh, that's crazy. So Minnesota played a part in this. What do you think the Valkyries, was there anything they could have done at the end of that Seattle game? Because again, the final game of the season was Minnesota Golden State. And Minnesota won both that last regular season game, and then they won game 1 of their series. And again, Minnesota is just, dude, they're a heavyweight fighter. They are the favorites to win the whole thing. At least I think. We'll explore with FanDuel in just a second here. I feel like the Las Vegas Aces have upended everything that was the norm in the WNBA. Which everything seemed to be on pace for Nafisa Collier winning MVP. The Minnesota Lynx just running the board, running the gamut to win a championship. And then this last month, the Vegas Aces and A'ja Wilson just coming in with a storm. Did they win their last 16, correct?
Yes.
Jesus Christ. And A'ja Wilson, again, inexplicably becoming the favorite to win MVP. So that Storm game was just it was a bummer. And again, I think you nailed it though. It's like the two teams came into that battle both fighting for something, but Seattle was far more desperate because the Valkyries knew they're getting into the postseason regardless. I don't get the sense, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Valkyries cared as much as these other teams about who they're going to play in the first round. Maybe they did. I don't know. Do you think they did? Like, were the Valkyries at all concerned about their first round matchup, or do you think they're just taking every game just with a one game at a time approach?
I really think it was a one game at a time approach, and with that end streak for the just closing the season, the regular season, they were just trying to go into every game and come out as healthy as possible after they clinched the playoffs, trying to just be as sharp as possible going into the playoffs as well. And I think their mindset is always let's win every game, let's not try to play. I know you mentioned the Seattle series or that Seattle game.
Yeah.
For that one, it was Cecilia Zanalazini's first game back after missing the last 8 with a calf injury, and she only played around 4 minutes, if I'm correct. And I think that's another person that you look at where if she was healthy, then, or just if that game wasn't as physical as it was, she probably would have seen more minutes and had a bit more time to come back and get acclimated again to the physicality.
And the season finale was in Minnesota. It went about as you'd expect because again, Minnesota is just a powerhouse of a basketball team. They are daunting as about as daunting as opposition gets. And so the Valkyries, I'm guessing, stayed in Minnesota. I would assume that's what they did. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see why they would do all that travel coming home and then going right back. So game one, and Chardal's in our chat, dropping the final score 101-72. I hope Chardal's accurate because I didn't memorize the final score of that game. He is accurate. Okay. Sophia Jones confirming. And this leads to game 2, the first home playoff game in Valkyries history. Side note, it's going to be at SAP Center, aka the Shark Tank in San Jose, home of the San Jose State Spartans, your alma mater. So you're actually going back home, Sophia. Let's do a preview of game 2. And on that note, actually, let me bring up the FanDuel Sportsbook. I mean, if I don't bring that up now, I mean, when should I? When can I? When would be more appropriate? So I'm going to go to the WNBA page of the FanDuel Sportsbook and check out what the odds are for the Valkyries and the Lynx in game 2. I'm going to ask you, Sophia, to guess the line. Let's start there. In your opinion, strictly a guess, unless you've studied this, in which case you're ahead of the curve. What do you think the line is going to be for the Lynx and the Valkyries game 2 tomorrow? Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Wednesday.
Your guess.
Considering the last 2 games specifically, that kind of turned into some blowouts in favor of the Minnesota Lynx. There are a lot of intangibles that come with a team playing at home, and specifically the Golden State Valkyries playing at home, coming into play that I don't know if FanDuel quite registers. In which case, I would say I don't think this is my prediction, but I think FanDuel is going to say Minnesota by 5.
So first of all, Sophia, if you don't mind, open up the sports book yourself if you can. If it's a pain in the butt, ignore it. But because I'm looking at the sports book right now for the Lynx and the Valkyries, and all I could say is I really wish we had this many options for every game. Boy, do they have this covered. First off, you were considerably off, and that's okay. The Minnesota Lynx are actually favored by 10.5 for game 2. So the bookies are predicting with confidence that the Lynx are going to finish up the series in San Jose and finish off the Valkyries. But again, if I would not doubt head coach Natalie Nicase to come up with a scheme, to come up with a plan to surprise Minnesota. But these, oh my God, does the FanDuel Sportsbook provide options? You can bet on who's going to score the first basket of the game. Side note, Nafisa Collier, your favorite, plus 370 to score the first bucket. over on the Valkyrie side, the player with the best odds to score first is Temi Fagbenny, plus 650. Did I pronounce that correctly? I'm sorry?
Temi Fagbenle.
Fagbenle. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there was an I. Okay. Fagbenle, plus 650. Janelle Salon, plus 750. And then Cecilia Zandalicini, and I probably butcher that.
We can just say Chechi.
Chechi, there.
Yeah.
I got the last name right, but what did I do wrong with the first name this time?
Full first name would be Cecilia.
Cecilia. Okay,
Yeah.
what did I say? Cecilia? It's Cecilia Zandalicini. So, and again, there's a lot of options here. Veronica Burton, she comes off the bench, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Starter.
She's a starter. Well, she's plus 1,000. I would think she would have the highest odds for that. What are your thoughts on who's going to make the first basket, if any?
I think Temi is a very good first guess because it's easy to start the game off getting a high percentage shot around the rim. And with Temi being the starting center, I could very well see that being a possibility. And then Nafisa, that makes completely sense as one of the MVP candidates, MVP favorite for a lot of the season. She is their leading scorer, second leading scorer in the WNBA. So purely by law of averages, I can definitely see why she's favorited.
This is I'm going to share my screen just so people have a better idea of, because we can't go through all of these. It would take up like hours. But if you've been studying WNBA action, and more specifically in this case the Valkyries, you might be able to win a lot of money here with the FanDuel Sportsbook, because you could bet on who's going to score 10 points or more first. You could bet on who's going to score 30 points or more. Side note, Nafisa Collier is the only player even named who might score 30 or more that you could bet on. You could bet on player threes, like who's going to hit one or more threes and rebounds, assists. They give you options. You could bet on halftime spreads, quarter spreads. I don't know what this race to. Whoever gets 8 points first, you can bet on that. There's a lot of options here. Why? I mean, not why, but wow is what I was going to say. I'm blown away by this. So FanDuel is really stepping it up for your postseason odds. Way too many toys to choose from. There you go. What's your preview of this game? What can people expect? Do you think the Valkyries have a shot on this one? I'm going to guess your answer is yes, and if it is, then why? Just break it down, please. What can we look forward to in Game 2 of the Minnesota Lynx and the Golden State Valkyries?
I would say, first off, you can't underestimate the energy of Valhalla, and especially with this being the Bay Area's first in a while professional women's basketball game. I can imagine they're going to show up and show out heavily. The Valkyries are going to play with that energy behind their backs, and the Minnesota Lynx, they're a very good road team, but they're an especially good home team. They've only lost 3 times the entire season on their home floor. So when you remove them from that environment, you do take away a bit of that comfort. And I think that they could get rattled, especially they're feeling very good right now. They've beaten the Valkyries 5 times in a row. So this could be the chance for Valkyries to just catch them by surprise. This team has showed so much resiliency throughout the course of the season and a great ability to bounce back. The defense for the Valkyries improved every game of the regular season. It wasn't that great last game, but going off of that pattern of improvement and just limiting the Minnesota Lynx's offensive looks, they can put themselves into a good situation because they've defended them solid all season, just except for that last game. And then offensively, they have struggled to hit shots. But again, when you have that home energy and environment behind you, that's when more of those buckets can fall in.
I was muted. So I'm looking at the standings right now, and you bring up a great point regarding the Minnesota Lynx, who finished the season 34-10, best record in the WNBA by 4 games. The Las Vegas Aces finishing second at 30-14, tied with the Atlanta Dream, but the Dream get the 3rd seed, I imagine, because of tiebreaker reasons, and then the Phoenix Mercury rounded out your top 4. Side note, that Mercury Liberty series, I think New York took game 1. But that's a competitive series. Those two teams are very closely matched. But going back to Minnesota, you brought up a great point because they're again 34-10 on the season, 20-2 at home, like you said, but on the road they're just 14-8. So maybe that is a chink in the armor for the Minnesota Lynx. And funny side note, even though 14-8 is nowhere near 20-2, that 14-8 record still was the best road record in the WNBA. So impressive nonetheless. But maybe that is, if you're going to steal a game, and look, if you steal this game, it suddenly becomes winner take all game 3. I mean, you want that, right? Like anything could happen in that scenario. Sophia, I don't know if you're old enough to remember when the Golden State Warriors upset the 1 seed Dallas Mavericks, the We Believed Warriors back in 2007 or 08, whenever that was. You could get those similar vibes here if they can pull off game 2. Is that the message you're hearing from the Valkyries? Is that what Natalie Nicase is hammering to her players? Just get this game and anything can happen. You're right. The being at home is a huge difference. Your thoughts?
100%. Valkyries have shown that they can beat anyone in this league, and the Minnesota Lynx are included in that conversation. And I know you said that they had 2 losses in the regular season at home. I mentioned earlier they have 3 losses at home all season because one of those losses happened at home in the Commissioner's Cup final, which is also a huge indication in that a high pressure situation Minnesota has shown it can fold on their home floor, which Valkyries very much can catch them by surprise because all the pressure will be on the Lynx for that game 3. And I would also bring up that Tiffany Hayes, she's been out the last couple weeks, but Coach Nicase seems to be pretty positive about her progression and her return to play process. So that could be someone, if you extend the series just one more game, that maybe they'll see back. And Tiffany Hayes, she has championship experience, a ton of playoff experience. She would be a huge boost for the Valkyries.
There you go. And give us a breakdown of how we can consume game 2. It's going to be tomorrow, I believe.
No,
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me on that. Okay. So a nice extra day in terms of travel so the players can rest a little bit. Take it away, please. When, where, how? Fill us in, please.
7 p.m. at SAP Center on Wednesday. My broadcast will be on 95.7 The Game, and if you want to watch it on TV, it will be on ESPN.
Hey now, all right. So ESPN 1, like the ESPN is covering it. I hope not ESPN 2.
I believe so. All the playoff games thus far for the WNBA have been on ESPN, except for the sole exception of one, which was on ABC. So ESPN has taken the reins for the WNBA playoffs, which I am very pleased to see.
Agreed. And NBA Today, the daily program on ESPN that covers the NBA, hosted by Malika Andrews, they do a phenomenal job balancing their coverage, giving the WNBA their due, while also giving you your NBA news. We're going to get to the NBA news in just a second because there is a lot to break down with this new Anthony Slater, Shams Charania story pertaining to the Kaminga Warriors negotiations. A lot of light shed in this piece. So we're going to break that down in just a moment. Real quickly, though, we are a bit on a clock, so I want to save enough time for that discussion. Real quick, though, KS in the chat saying the Lynx crumble when they don't get their foul calls. Would you agree with that opinion?
The second quarter of last game between the Valkyries and the Lynx was awful, to say the least, for the Valkyries. They were up going into that second quarter, and they had the lead pretty comfortably. It was up to 10 in the first quarter. And like I said, in that second, Minnesota started to shoot a lot more free throws. I believe, if I remember the number off the top of my head, Minnesota might have shot around 6 free throws in the second quarter compared to Golden State's 1. And Golden State was really hitting 3-pointers, pushing pace at this time. And especially when you're defending without fouling, or in this case, Minnesota shoots a lot of free throws every single time, you're having to play offense against a set half-court defense, which hasn't really been Golden State's strength. They like to create from their defense, offense from their defense. So that was definitely a killer. The fouls and free throws were a huge bummer for the Valkyries in game 1.
Well, I definitely know what I'm doing Wednesday night, 7 p.m. 95.7 The Game is where you can hear Sophia Jones as your color analyst, in addition to the Odyssey app. Download it. They stream all the WNBA games, or at least certainly the Golden State Valkyries. I don't want to speak for every team. And again, in addition to 95.7 The Game, which will be carrying Game 2 on your radio dial if you're driving around in the San Francisco Bay Area, ESPN covering the game on television. Does this mean Kevin Dan is back with you for the radio broadcast? Okay, nice, because that is not a local TV broadcast. Dan has, by the way, done a phenomenal job on the TV side. I'm proud of both of you. You guys have been killing it in the debut inaugural season of your Golden State Valkyries. Switching gears here to the Golden State Warriors. And real quickly here, this segment brought to you by the Golden Days merch store, which I want to highlight for a second. I'm going to showcase the YouTube channel of Golden Days, which is where the majority of you join us. I know we have a healthy podcast audience as well, and we welcome you as well. Sorry to be redundant there with the language. But we're selling merch now. We've got swag. And all you got to do to take a look at what we're selling, and we're adding to this. Like by the time the merch store is stocked fully, we're gonna have so much items to choose from. But again, if you just go to our homepage, there's a little tab there that says store, in addition to all the other tabs on the main homepage. If you click on that, you see some of our items. And if you just click on any one of the items, it'll take you to a new page. And that new page features our entire store. But just want to highlight the fact that we now have Valkyries shirts. And these come in a lot of colors, by the way. So you have options. I think we have 2 different types of Valkyries shirts now available. One of them includes a V on the sleeve. So if you want some variety there, there you go. Multiple colors, multiple font colors in terms of the lettering. We also just rolled out some mugs. If you want to wake up in your morning enjoying some Warriors aesthetic while downing your hot beverage, we have mugs with the city logo. We got mugs with the Valkyries, our special Valkyries logo that Sophia, you helped design personally, with the gold shield representing V for Valkyrie. We got shirts, we got hats. We're rolling, and this is just the beginning of things to come. So check that out. Support the program. We don't make a lot in terms of profit margins on the items, just because inflation is insane, and we now got a first taste of that in terms of retail, realizing just how expensive stock prices are for everything. The economy is crazy right now. So please forgive us for the pricing. A lot of that is out of our control, but nonetheless, you are supporting the program, purchasing swag from us, and we can't thank you for your support. And this leads to the breaking news that came today, courtesy of Shams Charania and Anthony Slater. By the way, Sophia, any thoughts on the swag? Like, anything look good? Anything stick out? You got samples coming soon, so you can check it out for yourself. But what do you think? Do you like it? Any revisions? Your thoughts?
I like it. I love a good mug moment. I drink a lot of tea, so
Nice.
love that.
We got Camelback water bottle. We got a couple water bottle options now as well. Ideal Realist, we want to sincerely thank you for being a new subscriber. I've been a fan of the Warriors, according to one of our newest audience members since the Run TMC days. We had Tim Hardaway on the show last month. If you love Run TMC, go check that out. We had Chris Mullen a few years back. I think that's on our YouTube channel, I think. I got to look that up. I don't know if I have the original file there. I got to dig that out of the old broom closet, if you will, metaphorically speaking. The Golden State Warriors are, again, they have 9 players under roster. This entire offseason has been held up because of these Jonathan Kuminga negotiations that are going nowhere. Well, according to Anthony Slater and Shams Charania in a great piece that was published today on ESPN.com, Joe Lacob decided to get himself involved in negotiations last month. That I feel like that's the only, I don't know if issue is the right word, but that's the only thing that kind of sticks out from the story a little bit to me in terms of taking it seriously. Is a lot of the facts that have come out were from like a month ago. Like the stories indicating that Joe Lacob got a report from Mike Dunleavy Jr., the GM of the team, that negotiations were stalled. The two sides that had hit an impasse. Joe Lacob flies into town the same day the Valkyries are playing, but I guess he comes in earlier than usual to attend a meeting between the Warriors and Kuminga's side. And I want to start there because this story actually attributes both Joe Lacob and Jonathan Kaminga. And according to this story, Joe Lacob posed a question to Jonathan Kaminga in this meeting where they're negotiating, I imagine, contract terms and, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, I imagine, came up. According to this story, Kaminga specifying the issues he had with the way he was used this past season. But one of the really eye-opening parts of the story is Joe Lacob asking Jonathan Kaminga, quote, "Do you want to be here?" Unquote. And then that alone is like crazy. It's like we're actually getting a very specific quote from within this meeting. And then adding to the drama is Jonathan Kaminga reportedly responding to Lacob and the Warriors with this response, quote, "Do you even want me here?" Unquote. Let's start there, Sophia. I think that is fascinating to me that Jonathan Kuminga basically turned this around on the Warriors and asked them, like, do you want me? And I think he asked that question largely because of the contract terms, which until this point, this meeting was with the sides were stuck on this 2-year, $45 million deal with a second-year team option that Kuminga had no interest in. Kuminga, more specifically, doesn't want to be a pawn in all this. He wants a commitment. He wants to actually be felt like he's wanted. And I don't blame him for that. So let's start with those two quotes, though. Your thoughts, Sophia?
I think they're both extremely valid questions because you have on one end asking, do you want to be here? Because that's valid. Why am I going to pay you instead of trading you if you don't want to be here? And then in return for Jonathan Kaminga, it's extremely valid for him to then ask if they want him here, because no one wants to be somewhere where they're not wanted as well.
Exactly.
And a lot of the signs have pointed, unfortunately, to him having those qualms. And so both of these sides, I think, have these valid questions. And I think that's exactly why we're in such a stalemate right now.
So this story, I'm not muted him. Okay. So this story, to me, and again, I'm going to try my best today. We'll have a lot more coverage of this. Like by the time tomorrow night rolls around with Mark Haynes, I think there will be a lot more details coming out. One thing particularly interesting that I'm going to bring up with Mark is the Sacramento Kings were mentioned in this story as an organization who really does want Jonathan Kuminga, and that's a team that might next offseason be an aggressive pursuer of his, whether it's in a sign and trade scenario if Kuminga is an unrestricted free agent or otherwise. But here's the gist I got from this story, because and this is a huge part of why I'm feeling good about things reading this story, is Lacob got involved himself. And according to this story, he was not involved in the negotiations directly until this August meeting, basically letting his people handle things, right? And his people referring more specifically to Mike Dunleavy Jr. And there was another name in this story. I can't find it right now. It was somebody that the Warriors hired about a year and change ago, and he's one of their cap experts. He's basically like a behind-the-scenes guy, just a fixer, if you will. Has the numbers dialed in. I'm guessing he's presenting the math to the team in terms of future options. But one piece of information that was very encouraging for me is that Lacob gets involved. And look, this story also reveals that clearly Jonathan Kuminga is Lacob's guy first and foremost. And I'll explain what I mean in just a minute here. Because there was a few pieces of information in here that make it clear and pretty much without any reasonable doubt that Jonathan Kuminga, that's a Joe Lacob special project, right? This is his guy. Maybe Bob Myers felt the same way, who knows? But we'll get more into that in a second. But what I'm encouraged about from this story, Sophia, and I'd love to know if you agree or disagree with this sentiment, is that I think this is going to get resolved soon. And the reason why I think that is because Jonathan Kaminga basically poses this question to Joe Lacob: do you want me here? The response, and it's what the one critique of this story Why do you not have the answer to that? And I imagine Shams and Slater got all of the information in this story from Aaron Turner in terms of attributions, details, and whatnot. I really wish we got an answer or got in this story the reply to that question. What did Lacob say to that? Yes? I don't know. So anyways, I'm guessing the answer is yes. And the reason why is because part of this story specifies that just last week, and so maybe this is where the story is relevant, and I don't have to worry about things being dated. Mike Dunleavy Jr. offered Jonathan Kaminga a 3-year, $75.2 million deal with a team option in the 3rd season. That's $48.3 million guaranteed in the first 2 seasons. So this would give Kuminga close to the same annual salary as Josh Giddey's going to be making with the Chicago Bulls. Giddey signed a 4-year, $100 million deal. Now, we also have a more specific reasoning for Kuminga not being okay with that deal. Kuminga doesn't want team options. So that's a revelation in this. But even though Kuminga doesn't want team options, the fact that the Warriors countered with another offer that included a 3rd year, that now includes 2 guaranteed years, what this tells me is that the Warriors do value Kuminga more than maybe what we had initially felt. We know Joe Lacob is a frugal negotiator, man. Like, he will not just give money away. I'll repeat this time and time and again. The fact that Joe Lacob resisted giving Stephen Curry the 5th year of his contract extension while Steph was in his prime, that's all the evidence you need, or at least I needed to know, that Joe Lacob will put sentiment aside in contract negotiations. Feelings or not, he's all about the numbers, and he's all about business, and he does care about the Warriors making and losing money. This is all, like, to me, becoming a clear picture of Joe Lacob and how he views managing an NBA team. With that said, he also increased the offer. He also increased the guaranteed years. And this story also reveals that Jonathan Kaminga is very cognizant of the fact that he has way more leverage than people may realize, because he knows if he accepts that qualifying offer, that's just a bad result for the Warriors no matter what. Kaminga may or may not survive doing the qualifying offer, and he's willing to bet on himself, respect. The Warriors are screwed in this scenario, in one of Stephen Curry's final years of his quote-unquote prime, if you will. He has a lot of leverage in that regard, and I think the Warriors recognize that. I think the Warriors are playing hardball and just trying to spend as little as possible in these negotiations, but I'm also feeling damn good now. I really am, that this is going to get resolved soon, that Kuminga is going to get a deal that makes him happy. I'll stop talking for a bit there, and I'll leave it to you.
That's an extremely gracious offer, in my opinion, by Mike Dunleavy, and just with Jonathan Kuminga being open to it, at least. And I think there was another portion of that article that said that Steve Kerr has made it known amongst the organization that they intend on Kuminga to have a significant role next season as well, which I hope contributes to him, making him feel like the organization wants him to be in that Warriors uniform. But with a lot of stalemates and when things just aren't looking like they're going to get resolved, I think that one of the best indications that this article gave was the fact that there does seem to be more of an open line of dialogue currently, which, if you can just talk this out, I think that's where we can really see this hopefully transpiring soon. And with that report coming out last week, that there was, or that offer came out, and just where Jonathan Kuminga's mind is a little bit, I think that hopefully this is an indication that things are ramping up on the communication level, and that they're close to reaching an agreement. I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. I do that way too much when we do shows together. I don't know why. I feel like, and the reason why I do that, in case people are wondering, like, what is this jackass doing, constantly muting himself? Maybe I should press that button less, but I'm just doing a million things. I apologize. And I go to look at another screen, I forget I'm muted, and then all of a sudden I start talking, and no one can hear me. Forgive me for that. You're absolutely right. I think this is going to get resolved soon. And again, Kaminga's side is very aware of the cards they hold, and it's a strong deck, man. He's got or a strong hand. I'm sorry. Kuminga is going to wait this out. Basically, this is the gist I'm getting. He's going to wait this out until the Warriors take out that team option. If 3 years 75 is on the table without the team option in year 3, you have a deal. And so when two sides are that close, I think we're going to see a resolution to this soon. One important thing I got from this story as well, and there was a lot of little nuggets here. Kaminga and Steve Kerr do not there is no negative. How do I phrase this appropriately? There is no animosity between the two. There's a lot of spin out there that Kaminga and Steve Kerr's personal relationship is not the greatest. And I can understand why some people would come to that conclusion, but it is an assumption. Have they had rifts? Have they had disagreements? Yes. Does that mean they have personal issues with each other? No. And one part of this story, and I'll read the whole. I'll read the. Well, I won't read it to you. I'll paraphrase it. But basically, the story says that Kaminga's personal relationship with Kerr is not an issue. And I've heard that as well. I think Kaminga and Kerr are actually more on the same page than people think. It's just that Kaminga just doesn't like the fact that, he's the minutes thing, the opportunities, it's a clear issue. And again, I think there's an understanding from those two sides that it's not malicious, right? Steve Kerr's not making these decisions to spite Jonathan Kaminga. He's just making decisions that he thinks is best for the team. They're very puzzling decisions, but there is no malicious intent behind it. Now, Kaminga is using Steve Kerr's words, particularly after the season ended, as a negotiating tactic, as a friendly reminder to the front office that, look, part of what I want is opportunities. My head coach keeps saying that there's no guarantees I'm going to get them, and that's an issue. But they don't have a personal issue with each other, and I do think that's important. Did you take that? Did you get that from the story as well? Anything you want to add to that?
No, that was my interpretation as well, where it didn't really seem like there was an intense level of animosity between the two. And Steve Kerr has even went so far as to express that he sees that larger role for Jonathan Kaminga. And that's just where I go back to, I think, the fact that there is more dialogue occurring between the organization and Kaminga right now.
Yes.
That things are trending towards being resolved.
Absolutely. And I know you got to run. We're wrapping the show up right here. I want to finish on this note. And again, we're going to have a lot of future shows starting tomorrow. We're going to have a doubleheader of Bruce Bernstein, former longtime ESPN NBA media exec. He's like the dude was a powerful figure. We're going to bring him on the show tomorrow just to talk about what fans can expect from the media landscape in the 2025-26 season in the NBA, media consumption inside the NBA. How is ESPN going to handle that? So Bruce is going to be on to discuss that. And we're obviously going to talk about this Kaminga situation. He's going to have some opinions there. And then tomorrow night, Mark Haynes will join the program. We're going to cover this ad nauseum. Great news is there does seem to be a resolution coming soon. I think this story represents that this is going to be over. I think it's a matter of days. I can't see this going into training camp. I think that's where you're going to see the Warriors bend a little bit. One last important fact before we go that I do think needs to be highlighted here, because a lot of people keep asking, well, how did the veterans feel? Like why aren't the veterans reaching out to Kaminga? They are. And we literally just on Friday's show with Armando Lora, and that's going to be a regular thing now, by the way. We're the Friday happy hour every Friday at 3 p.m. Armando Lora, the professor, joins me. And on last Friday's show, I reminded the audience that Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler are very much behind Jonathan Kaminga. They support him. They want him on the team. They understand just how good he is. They know the potential. And the story reiterates that both Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler have been reaching out to Kaminga this offseason just to reassure him, to check in that he has support. So any narrative out there that the veterans don't like Kaminga, I think that kind of added some reaffirmation that is not true. the veterans love him. If the veterans did not appreciate him, he would have been gone, I think, a long time ago. So wanted to include that note as well. Yeah, AC, we talked about Draymond going to China and playing a 1v game. That's crazy. We talked about that last week. But Sophia, any final thoughts on the Kuminga thing, on the Valkyries as we wrap up the show?
I would just say, going back to the Valkyries, so excited for Veronica. I think that award is
Huge.
well deserved. I don't
Yes.
think in my mind there was anyone else, or I think actually the specific voter breakdown was 68 votes for Veronica Burton, 2 for Azare Stevens, and then I think 1 each for Alicia Gray and Atisha Hyman. So she blew this award out of the water pretty much. And I'm excited to see how she's going to perform and show out on Wednesday in game 2 of the WNBA playoffs.
Beautiful. And you can catch that on the radio, 95.7 The Game, Wednesday night. Valkyries and Lynx in San Jose. Sophia Jones, your color analyst, alongside Kevin Danner for that broadcast. It's also going to be available on the Odyssey stream if you don't have terrestrial radio available to you. And the game will be on ESPN. And again, we're going to be back very soon. Tomorrow, another Tuesday doubleheader. Plenty more coverage on this contractual standoff that is creeping toward training camp. 2 weeks from today, by the way, Sophia, I don't know if you're aware of that. 2 weeks from today, training camp opens for your Golden State Warriors. Nuts. It's insane. Have a great call Wednesday night. Go Valkyries. Anything could happen in game 3. Are we done?
Think so.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.